You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. For Tuesday, we visit with Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. He's with us now. Shady, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, Matt. I made it to Pearl Jam, and I know you did as well.
Yeah! I'm a little disappointed that you didn't holler at your boy, but honestly, amid a sea of about 200,000 people, we probably wouldn't have found each other anyway.
Well, I can say this. I ran into another friend who had run into you or had seen you and described you as with an entourage of people. So didn't even stop and wave at you or anything as an avid listener to your show. So after hearing that, I said, he's fine. He doesn't need me.
Well,
he'll be just fine out here.
We did have a herd. It was one of those where everybody was going to see Pearl Jam, and so we all somehow managed to make it happen together. And so, yeah, a lot of people went down. It was a good time, man. First of all, what did you think? Give me your assessment as a big Pearl Jam fan.
Well, I was playing with house money off start because I think they opened at Corduroy. So as one of my top Pearl Jam songs, I was easy going from then on out. I had also seen them over the summer by themselves.
Right.
So we were kind of in the back, and people were like, hey, we can't hear as well as maybe you think. But I enjoyed it. I also found it fascinating. They were one of the final shows, and anyone who's been to Jazz Fest knows they clear you out pretty quickly. But as you said, it was a horde of people. It was a horde of people everywhere. But probably like 5 songs into Pearl Jam, half the people that were in our area had packed up and were already kind of trying to hit the gates and beat traffic or whatever it might be. So midway through Pearl Jam, it was wide open for us. It was almost as if nobody had been sitting there. So that got an A in my book. People leaving early, A+ in my book. Suffice
to say, Shea, where I was, ain't nobody left early, dog. We were sardined about 30 feet from the stage, front left. So, I'm sorry, not 30 feet. I was about 30 yards front left. But I had a great view, great set list. Thought it was awesome, man. Had a great time all the way around. Okay. Also over the weekend, LSU landed A.J. Haulcy out of Houston. I think we had all anticipated this. How did it all come together, Shea?
And he waited till after Pearl Jam to do it, so he did it the next day.
That'd be very thoughtful, very considerate of Mr. Haulcy.
Yeah, we had talked a week ago. Look, we talk every Tuesday. I guess last week was a Tuesday when we talked. And on Monday, he had made that visit to Miami. We're talking about a kid out of Houston. It was all Big 12, played at Houston, but is from Texas, all Big 12 player. Has got a year left, had contemplated going to the draft, decided he'd go to the portal. And he was coming off a Miami visit where Rick Ross was with him, and they had rolled out the red carpet. He is or was the most coveted safety still out there, and he had not made a visit or even set one to LSU at that point. And it almost felt like, okay, they're really playing from behind the 8 ball here, and perhaps they were. But in the end, he landed at LSU, and from everything I've gathered, and you talked about this, but, in the NIL era, especially, or specifically with the kid who's got 8 months left and is a very notable, in terms of accolades, what he's accomplished, playing time, all of that, is going to be a guy who gets NIL brought up where LSU got to a comfortable spot with him, or I should say his agents. These college kids have agents now. That's well known. And they were able to get it done. And look, that was fresh off of getting Bernard Gooden. And you and I and anyone who listens to your show and is, somewhat more than a casual observer of LSU football could have said, I watched the games last year. I can look on paper what they have. And man, if there was anything that could make this icing on the cake and make this team a little bit better, it'd probably be some more experience at these 2 positions, deep tackle and safety. And what do you know, after kind of winning the first portal window in December, they get to the second smaller window, and they lose one guy who was, had not even played it down yet. He was an incoming freshman. And they then add 2 guys who were at the 2 positions. You just so happen to say, boy, they could use just a little help there, and then you feel really good about things.
When you look at what happened this year in the portal, Shea, that's 18 additions, and they're right there, right? I mean, a lot of the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but 18 additions, 23 players that have left. How do you sort of assess that in this whole portal cycle?
I think that the assessment of the departures can obviously be viewed. Are they searching for playing time they would not have found here, first and foremost? And yes, would you love to keep every kid and develop them that you feel good about? Sure. I don't think that LSU, when compared to many other teams, out there, and certainly some of the upper echelon teams, lost players to the portal that they did not want to lose. And LSU didn't have that. And that also goes for the NFL draft. Look, Garrett Nussmeier is coming back. They got Harold Perkins back. I know he had to juggle the entire injury thing, but there's also guys who, don't let it fool you, could have been these agents get calls from everybody, and they could enter the portal, and you're thinking, well, you would have started next year. Why'd you hit the portal? Well, this team was offering me a bigger role and more money, whatever it might be. There was none of that. So I think departure-wise, by and large, more than 80-90%, correct me if you feel differently, are guys who just wanted to go and play elsewhere. And then I think on the contrary, unlike a year ago when they added a much smaller number and still didn't have a huge hit rate on, instant impact guys, this time they get 18 guys. I can point to double digit of them and say, that guy will start or will play a pretty big role on the team. And on paper, that's just what it is. I kind of joked with Maddie B about it on our podcast. I'm not trying to say this is like that offseason, Matt, where it's like, where I just said, oh, well, they didn't lose really anybody that's going to hurt them, and they only gained all these guys that are going to help them. It sounds like the old, reports out of the weight room are everybody's, maxed out on the bench now. Nobody dropped a ball in spring practice. Everybody looks as good as they ever have. I just mean purely on paper, what they did in the first two windows, coupled with retention of the roster, I didn't see any missteps, and it's been well documented and talked about, and you've done a good job covering it, and everybody in the local media has, of this kind of push they put into NIL, organizing, things beyond the field, and then being able to go out and execute coming off of a season where in the win and loss, chart, you took a step backwards.
Shea, do I wish they had retained Ricky Collins? Yes. But Michael Van Buren started 9 games. Do I wish they had retained Shelton Sampson? Yes. High ceiling. But Nick Anderson, Berrien Brown, Desno, they're all more accomplished players right now. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, yes, there's guys you would have liked to have retained, but the guys you added are undeniably more experienced, more accomplished than who you lost. I mean, there's just no discussion to the contrary of that. But what I do, please go ahead. Go ahead.
There's a lot of one-to-one examples I think you use that you're spot on with. And this isn't knocking players. This is just the era you're in. C.J. Daniels started for you last year at Liberty, and he left and went to Miami. And it was, okay, you lose C.J. Daniels, but you get Berrien Brown, a guy from Kentucky who has no injury history. He's played 3 years in the SEC. He was a top 100 kid coming out of high school. He's got tied for the SEC lead in all-time return touchdowns. I think it's 5 or 6, but that would be an upgrade. So, if you're doing the one-for-one thing, I think they came out a lot more on the positive side and far more than the negative. And yes, that's going to happen when some guys are just leaving for more playing time, but also guys like that, guys you mentioned who did play and did start and left. They got in guys who did the exact same at other schools, but also did it to a higher degree.
Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, is with us. One of the things that I think is questionable, though, Shea, I'm curious your thoughts on this, is the overall strategy, considering Brian Kelly, from the time he showed up, said they wanted to build through the high school ranks and develop and then supplement with the portal. And we've talked about it, Shea. They went from 15 to 13 to 9, each of Kelly's first 3 years transfers in. Well, then this year you see this big boom to 18. Well, you didn't do that because you had to supplement the roster, like whenever he took over a situation with a barren roster where you needed numbers. This was intentional. So do you think we're seeing a fundamental shift in the way LSU is choosing to build their roster in this era?
No, I don't. I think we're overlooking in that specific to exactly what you're talking about. There could be oversight in truly where the roster was at when they took over. Did they improve it over time? Yes, but it's still turning over every year. So did you want to ride into this year developing E.J. Woodland, Ashton Stamps, Deshaun Spears, all of these guys in the secondary who are your promising younger guys, Michael Turner? I mean, you could continue to name them. Or did you also want to develop them but say, hey, look, we've got Garrett Nussbaum at quarterback. We've got all these other pieces in place. If we have the ability to go out there and make the roster better with many guys who are 1 year left, 2 years left, whatever it might be, and we can retain those other guys and develop them, then we're not continuing to take these lumps that come with, hey, look, we want to be heavy in high school and development and supplement portal. I do think he probably wants to be in that, let's add around 8 to 10 portal guys a year. But for me, I think, and anybody who looks at the roster, when you've got Nuss and a healthy Perkins and Weeks and your Aaron Anderson and these guys are in their final years, and you've got some pieces here and there on the defensive line that are getting kind of into the prime of their careers. Don McKinley's, Dave Relaford's, where they really get their shot. Do you go out there and grab maybe boost up a little bit more on each side than you normally would? I think the answer is yes. Look, probably we can answer it by, hey, how much did you think the team should be better? They took a portal punter last year and went out and just took one this year again to replace that one who didn't play as much because he split 50-50 time with the other punter on roster. So I think it just became one of those things when they, like I said, win-loss, you take a step back. How can we still develop, not lose a ton of guys that we want to retain and develop, but also make us better to capitalize on this next year where you saw it with Tennessee. You can go 10-2, not make the SEC title, and go to the playoffs. If the playoffs are the goal and this is your most talented roster, then wins should be within reach. So I think this is probably a culmination of all of that. I think we see that number come down a good bit if they're continuing to be able to retain at the rate they have.
Okay. Hey, before you go, give us a thought, if you would, on where LSU currently sits with the 2026 class and with the calendar, what's ahead here as we move through May?
Yeah, all the coaches are on the road right now, so you're starting to see some offers go out to younger guys, but really they're getting a feel for the 2026 class, finalizing the board ahead of what'll be summer official visits. So they've jockeyed at 1 and 2 in the rankings with Southern Cal. LSU's got a really good class already with double-digit guys, a number of number one guys at their position. And what I love most is it's rooted in Louisiana. It's rooted in border state guys. Your 5-star is a South Mississippi kid and wide receiver Tristan Keys. So it's not like you're spread all over the map where kind of you risk a lot of these guys saying, hey, I'm staying closer to home or whatever it might be. So coaches on the road, then we'll get into that wave of camp season, official visits, and by the time the dead period hits in July, Matt, which is only 2 months away, I mean, they'll have built more than half this class, given that they're already in the double digits.
Shea Dixon, On3, the Bengal Tiger, with us every Tuesday. Make sure you get him on Twitter at Shea Dixon. We appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt.
All right, man. We'll talk next week. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.